couple years ago, I was incensed by the fact that there was so much controversy about putting up nativity scenes at Christmas time in public places.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Channel Mom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
Welcome back to the Channel Mom Show. Moms, we are here for you. So glad to have you. We're right here on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. I am your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt, along with Shelley, and we have our guest, Gretchen Carlson from Fox News. So honored to have her today. Her husband's actually a sports agent, so he could be listening to us because we're on Mile High Sports Radio, and he wouldn't even be bored, right? Gretchen, we do have a caller for you. I want to say one thing, though, before we get to her. You know, Shelley and I were talking in the break about the fact that your favorite interview was with a mother. And I want to encourage moms out there, because I think so often they think if they're not shaking their booty and doing a music video, or if they're not rich and famous, or if they're not a famous politician or whatever, that they're just unimportant. And you would tell them, hey, an unknown mother who lost her child had the biggest impact for me of all my years of reporting. And you interviewed presidents, as did I. And my story is very similar, that it was people like moms and dads that impacted my life far more than the people that were in the spotlight. Yes?
Totally agreed. And we need moms to stand up and keep exerting their values and how important it is, because the number one reason that I believe we're all here is to raise our kids and give them exactly what we had, if not more.
Yep.
And that, what I mean by that is not monetary things. I mean values and a strong ground to stand upon, and I believe a religious faith, so that they can go out into the world and be as happy as we were. I mean, I think it's so important to give your children that grounding, especially in this generation.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a God girl, and so I do equip my kids to love others, as you know, we are called to do in the Bible and so on. And so I totally agree with you, and I am so blessed by moms who just want to help their kids be good to others in the world and follow the golden rule and so on. We do now have a caller. Her name is Ginger, and I don't even know if she's... Ginger, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to the Channel Mom Show, Ginger.
Thanks, Jenny.
I'm going to quickly, briefly describe to you, Gretchen. Ginger and I worked in TV news here in Denver together. And Ginger was a very high-profile reporter, and I knew that she would have a question for you because she, too, has had to balance motherhood and career. She's a single mom, and so it's been tough for her. So, Ginger, go ahead with your question.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Hi, Gretchen.
Hi,
I want to just tell you, like Jenny said, I'm a former television news reporter in Denver. I left the business a couple years ago because I have a 9-year-old daughter, and the business wasn't conducive to raising her and that lifestyle. So I work in PR now. But my question to you is, how do you share? You had mentioned that you go to church and that you take your kids to church. How do you share your faith in your work? Are you ever able to talk about it, with women like the one you interviewed in the Arizona shooting, or are you ever able to talk about it on set openly? I know that, you have people on your network like Mike Huckabee who shares his Christianity sort of openly. And so I was just wondering how that plays a part in what you do and whether you're able to talk about it publicly.
Thank you, Ginger.
Yeah, I am. And just for a little background, my grandfather was a minister growing up in Minnesota, so faith was just a huge part of my upbringing, and I spent so much time in the church. And actually, my husband and I are Sunday school teachers, and we often joke with each other that we know that it's the 1 hour every week when we're going to actually see each other. And we trade off classes. We teach my son's class, and then we do my daughter's class to try and have a quality there with both of them. But, church is just really important for us and for our children and providing that foundation. Now, as to how that relates to my work life, yes, I speak about it often. In fact, that's how I ended up getting a regular role, or one of the reasons, on Bill O'Reilly's show, because a couple years ago I was incensed by the fact that there was so much controversy about putting up nativity scenes at Christmas time in public places. Mm-hmm. And I said out loud on the air, why do I have to drive my kids around in the car and say to them, oh, by the way, kids, there's baby Jesus, but you have to look way behind all these other, sets that have been the atheist tree and and the Festivus pole and all these other groups that we're trying to come on top of Christmas. You got to look way, way, way in the back to see baby Jesus when, in fact, it was Christmas Day. And that got Bill O'Reilly's attention, who had similar feelings about the whole thing. And so we've talked extensively about that on his show and on my show. I'm not against any other religion celebrating, what they believe in. I'm
Amen.
all
Amen.
for that. Just on Christmas Day, I thought it was a little offensive to think that we had to celebrate a fake holiday, which is known as Festivus, which I think came out of the Seinfeld show, and to actually have people who would go to town halls and demand that they have some sort of a right to put up their own symbol seemed absolutely ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of mocks people who have a very deep faith.
Of course. And so, I get a chance to talk about it often. I think there's some sort of feeling for people in the media that, it's not politically correct or cool to talk about being a Christian or talk about your religion. And, quite honestly, I'm too old for that now, and I believe what I believe. And I think we actually need to talk a little bit more about it rather than less.
Yeah, and it's funny, in times like these, with Hurricane Sandy and after 9/11, people were very willing to talk about it. And part of it's because our value system gets shot back into place and we get a perspective and people, come back to church and so on and so forth. So there are times, and frankly, I think moms talk about it more than the average person because they just lean on God, wherever they're at in terms of what their religion is, but they lean on God, So thank you for saying that. By the way, I just have to tell you something really quick. Did you know you were born on the same day as my husband?
I saw that in your email back and forth. I was supposed to be born like 2.5 weeks before that, but I like my birthday because it's the first day of summer.
Yes, it is. It's a happy day, Gretchen, because both you and my husband were born then. All right, well, we're going to wrap up. You do have 2 games to go to, yes? Is that correct? What are you going to?
Well, I missed my son's hockey game this morning, unfortunately. They're really exciting, even though he's only 7. And now I'm going to try and hook up with my husband at my daughter's soccer game. And then we have flag football later on. It's a championship. I can't miss that.
So you're participating in flag football, or who's participating in flag?
No. Oh, gosh, that would be scary. I do love watching football, but my days of playing football are long over.
Yes.
No, it's my son's. It's my son's game.
Wonderful. And Gretchen, I would love it if you'd give a last word of encouragement to moms. You do have a 7-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and God bless them. I'm so glad that you take your mothering of them seriously, maybe even before, and I think you've said before your high-profile career. What do you say to moms out there that they feel like nobody recognizes it, especially right now if they're in the teenage stage, they feel like their kids don't care, nobody thanks them, nobody appreciates what they're trying to do, they're not even motivated anymore to try their best or to instill good values in their kids. What would you say to moms as you're watching the culture unfold and they're watching what's happening in America? What would you say to moms about how important their role is to encourage them in that role?
I would say that if you are unpopular with your teenage kids or your kids in general right now, that you're doing the right thing. And it's very difficult to do the unpopular things such as having discipline in the family and keeping to your value system. But you know what? In the end, your kids are going to end up respecting you. I grew up in a disciplinarian family. I didn't like it all the time, but you know what? Now is when I'm best friends with my parents. Not when I was growing up. I don't think parents need to be friends with their kids, but you can be friends later on if you stick to your guns and you have your values and your discipline while you're raising your kids.
Yeah. I mean, what do we have in this world if we don't have good moms? Our society will fall apart.
Exactly.
Thank you, Gretchen. Enjoy the games. God bless you. Thanks for being on the Channel Mom Show.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All righty. And I want to say, I'm going to send her a little gift as a mom. I'm going to send her a little spa pampering gift as a mom, not because she's on Fox News, because I just want to honor her motherhood and the fact that she takes it seriously. So we're going to send her something in the mail to thank her. And Shelley,
her career is just a job to her.
I know. And you know what? Frankly, that makes her probably do it better.
Yeah.
Because when I tune in, and I did see her a couple of times referencing her motherhood this week as I was watching her, and it made me identify with her. And I'd rather that she do that than be cold, hard, et cetera, and removed. I identify with her much more. And I think maybe it makes her job approach a little more realistic and draws in people like me who take the rest of life seriously and not just that high-profile career. So thank you to her. It was nice to have her on the show.